Alright, part 2 of April Fool's Day in-depth horror discussion review.
Left off with
all of them having the
opening night dinner scene
and all the gags that happen there, and then freaking everyone's going to bed.
No, so then they're all going to bed.
No, they're all going to bed, and it's like 11 o'clock, and they're like all going to bed off a toast. Like
they all had they all had one glass of champagne.
No, you know the sober chick who reads the book, she's definitely wasted off that toast. Alright, so anyway, she should be the only one going to bed.
So it goes to all their individual shots in their rooms.
No, then it cuts to Biff and the 80s sunglass guy going to their room in the bed, and they're like...
it's the third gay joke
It's the third gay joke they're doing. It's just them in the room, like they're not even doing the joke for anyone. It's just them like doing gay humor, and you're like, wow, are they gay? Alright, anyways.
It's the hick.
And then it cuts to the hick, and he lights a cigar. And he's smoking a cigar for a while, and then it cuts to the 80s sunglass guy.
Filler.
He walks into the wrong room, in on him, and he's like, oh, my bad, wrong room. And then he walks out, and then you hear the cigar blow, and you're like, oh, that's tight, you know, it was Chick cigar. So they do that gag on him, and then it cuts to Biff, and he
so they're all finding random gags in their room.
No, it cuts to Biff, and he like pulls...
Buffy set it up.
No, and he pulls the door handle, and it comes off, and it's freaking hilarious.
Oh yeah, Biff does that. That was a good one.
Alright, and then also, it goes to the couple, and it's like the Andrew Jackson, like, freaking
No, the nerd
painting.
bitch gets the baby tape.
The baby tape for the nerdy bitch. And then freaking, and then also the couple get the Andrew Jackson painting, and the eyes are moving, and they take it off, and it's Felix the cat. And
it's a yellow
one. One of those clocks, those classic clocks, like from Back to the Future. Alright.
And then, the main couple was the total sober ones. They go to shut off the lights, and he's like in his whitey tighties, and you're like, thanks for that.
And then also it cuts to Biff like running into freaking what's her name?
And the lights keep switching off. Hold up, I'm gonna say that, yeah. And then Biff's walking around the room.
Biff's hitting on Muffy. He runs into her in the hallway.
No one's smoking except for a cigar. Yeah, Biff's like the total meathead, like, of the group.
And also,
he runs into Muffy. He tries to hit on the hottest girl there.
No, and then also...
in the hallway.
She's only hot at this time. Later on in the movie, she's ugly as fuck. But anyways...
Yeah, but she's, like, the most popular girl.
But also,
that's what her character is.
But you also notice at this time that freaking, Richie Rich guy, the one who's telling the story, that he was disinherited with a cousin, he wasn't at the dinner. He wasn't present at dinner. So you're like, okay, where he's at. Anyways, go on.
Yeah, he was out the whole night still.
Yeah, they cut back to him drinking a fifth, during the dinner scene, actually. He's out on the deck, and he throws the Jack Daniels bottle in the water.
So then Biff's still walking around the hallway, and he runs into the 80s sunglass guy fucking that one slag.
Oh, yeah, and it's like, oh my goodness. Okay, anyways. Darnell Weeks would be like, yeah, they're having sex or something.
Then it cuts back to Richie Rich, like, drunk at the docks, like you were saying.
Oh, yeah, no.
This is when he goes into the boathouse scene.
No, before that, they show him, and he's, like, all drunk, he's all walking drunk.
Death.
No, and he goes up to, like, a weed plant, and he's like, oh, and it's, like, not even butter.
Yeah, what was
that?
And
he cuts the top off, like, completely wet. And he's like, alright, I'll go in the boathouse and roll up a wet J. And you're like, okay, what the hell? Who put that in the script? Anyways, so he's in the barn, it's all dark, in the boathouse. And then he runs into
Creepy Philly.
No, and then he runs into Bruce Willis the cat. And it scares him, it's a jump scare.
And that's when someone grabs him from behind. We don't get to see the death.
They never show the killer, so it's kind of tight, suspenseful. So then he's dead, and then it cuts to freaking...
That's the first death, so yeah, they're like, alright, it's gonna be a mystery kind of thing. It's tight. At least so the story's pretty compelling.
Oh yeah, he gets killed, and it also cuts back to the Andrew Jackson.
I don't like to think about what's going to happen
poster
at the end of the movie, so I like to...
It's tight.
Get into the story.
They filmed it pretty tight. Alright, go on. So then it cuts to freaking...
it's the next morning.
It's the next morning, and
no, then it's like Muffy, and she's totally strung out.
No, it's the next morning. No, before that, it's the next morning, and freaking the freaking rich guy who had the cigar is like out on the freaking roof, and he's got like this freaking workout gear. He's got like a freaking sweatband head on, and he's freaking like got one of those freaking like bendable freaking arm things.
That was probably cutting edge
springs.
In the mid-80s.
That was cutting edge in the 80s. They're like, yeah, you work it out, you just freaking move the spring.
Yeah, put that in the movie.
No, and then he looks over, and it's the freaking one slut who had the freaking, who was banging the sunglasses guy, and she's like freaking stretching out the window, like, airing out her pussy. Okay, go on.
We should have showed a tit scene right there.
Okay. So
but they tried to make it more family oriented.
So then everybody gets dressed. And then Muffy's freaking like on it. Muffy's like strung out on H. She's like a Kimmy crack eye.
She took some like bad acid or something.
She took some real bad acid and her eyes are all
That's cracked. What they lead you to believe. And
she looks like a freaking raccoon. She totally
flips characters like, you know, this is a girl that isn't like, doesn't show herself like that, but she was like retarded.
Okay, let's see here. And then
and they're all outside playing.
And then they're all outside playing soccer, like and then the sober chick's like on the deck, like reading the books, like reading her books.
Oh yeah, like, hey, the part where it turns into like an early '90s Lifetime movie.
Oh yeah, you're like, what is this freaking Hollywood?
What is this Oxygen Channel?
What is this Oxygen? Okay,
no,
so
it's
then
like a freaking
so then freaking Biff's like, hey,
40-year-old mom's freaking.
Biff's like, hey, come on, play soccer, and she's like, no, and then she's like all pissed off because about the baby thing because like. Freaking, she sees Muffy and she wants to follow her, so she follows her.
Of course, she lets her emotions get the best of her.
Anyways,
the writers just went off with that part of this.
Anyways, then freaking, then also they're looking for Skip because they're like, all right, he's not freaking around, and then so they go looking for him.
No, the sober couple goes down to the docks.
Oh yeah, they go to the docks.
He's like, I'm a failure, for no reason. Like, I don't even know what's going on.
Oh, yeah, he's like, I'm not going to med school. I ain't accepted, some shit like that. And then they do it in the freaking, on the floor of the freaking boathouse. And then she sees him, and it's like, oh,
that's
80s.
When they see the body
the grips without the 80s floating prop, and it's like, oh.
That's like the only one that looked real fake.
Nah,
but it was like tight. Real pale, but it was taupe, though.
Anyway, so they run out back up to the house, and they're like, all right, you see Skip? He's like dead or something. They're like, we gotta look around.
Yeah, they would have ran into like more spider webs in that boathouse.
No, and they're like, we gotta call the sheriff, and then it cuts to Muffy, and she's like, yeah, there's a phone in there, and she's like, oh yeah, and you guys want tea? And she's like, what kind of tea you want?
At this point, you're like, where do you get your weed?
And you're like, Muffy, what are you blown? Or like, what's wrong with you? All right, anyways.
No one's smoking. You're like, man, where do you get your?
So then they get on the phone, but they can't even reach him. Like the line doesn't go through or something.
No, she acts like she's like a 7-year-old woman with like dementia or something.
No, then also, and then it cuts to Biff at this time going in the woods.
And then gets Alzheimer's overnight.
No, he cuts to Biff, and then he gets freaking like he steps on like a trap, and he gets hung upside down.
No, before that, the nerd talks to Muffy.
Oh yeah.
And it goes into a hardcore Lifetime movie scene.
Oh yeah, yeah. She's like freaking. She's asking about the tape. She's like, she's the writers are implying that like she had like a miscarriage or something. That's why she's so upset. She's like, did somebody tell you? One of the college, preppy boys tell you about that? Why did you play that tape? For the baby crying. So, but anyways, so then after that scene, it cuts to Biff, and he gets hung upside down, and it's like a prop snake, like.
Hold up, yeah, it's the Biff trap in the tree with the snake
and then freaking some guy walks up. And
it was tight. No,
and he kicks it away, and it's like a total set.
It's like, a total mat with like manger grass.
Oh yeah, it's like the prop grass that they put in like the manger for like Jesus. For Christmas nativity. Anyways, so
no, literally, like you could see it and it like flops up.
It's like the fake snake.
And it's like a total animal trainer. Like wasn't the villain at all. You're like, this isn't definitely the actor.
The animal trainer came up and kicked it out of the way. That was his cameo. Okay.
Because it wasn't the main villain.
Okay, so then
they wouldn't let an actor kick his snake out.
Alright, so then it cuts back to the house, and then it's the other two guys coming up, and they're like, I thought he was with you. And freaking, Biff. And then freaking the chick's like, alright, I'm calling the cops.
No, it's the whole cast on the porch.
Oh yeah, it's all on the porch.
And the main bitch, the one from Friday the 13th Part 2, she's like a total tomboy, like even
wearing a tie?
If you thought she was a tomboy in Part 2, Friday the 13th. Yeah, she's like wearing a tie. And it's like somewhat 80s, but like what the hell? It's like a guy's tie. It's like, I don't even know what to say other beyond that. No, then that's when they're going in on the porch.
Okay, this is then this is when they need water for the tea, so they freaking
this is when Muffy's like, who wants tea?
Yeah. But then that's when they go out to the freaking.
And then again, you're like, where do you get your boob?
Alright, so they go out to the freaking the well. And freaking, it's the chick in the freaking.
No, then they all start flipping out, and she's like, "There's no water." No, they try to call the cops. They can't reach him.
Yeah,
he's out.
Going. So then they go to the well for the water.
No, then they have no water yet.
And she drops a flashlight. No, the first guy drops a bucket.
No, Muffy just starts saying some random shit.
Oh yeah, she's like, No, she's like, I don't know, she's upset about something. She's like, oh, I don't have this, or, something. I don't know, she's just all strung out.
Just tripped out.
Anyways, so freaking, they run to the well, drop the freaking bucket, drop the flashlight, and she's like, oh, we're even. No, she climbs down there and freaking falls in. And then this is where it's like the prop bodies and like the heads, and you're like, oh.
Awesome set for this scene.
The grips whipped it out.
Perfect idea. But they're like,
whipped out the props.
I don't have water this whole weekend, and it was like the dirtiest.
Oh yeah, down there was like dirty water. They would have to filter and boil it down because it was like dirty ass water. It was like freaking. They were living. It was like Eric Viewfaller's like toilet bowl.
That he showed on his Cribs YouTube video.
They showed on his Cribs YouTube video. Anyways.
Who does it?
Who does it? Okay.
Nah, check out his channel.
Nah, Eric Viewfaller, he's pretty tight. Check him out. All right, so go on. So next scene, freaking. So they're all flipping out. This is where they all freaking come to freaking, no.
No, so the hick and, then they show the prop heads in the freaking well.
This is where they get yeah, but after
vintage that, 80s prop.
This is when it's dark time and then they're all
and then they all get back and they're in the living room.
And then the sheriff, they finally get a hold of the sheriff on the phone and the guy's like, he's like, yeah, I'm with Buck, Buck.
She saw Biff too, it was Biff's dead body.
Oh yeah, Biff's head was down thrown in the well.
It looked so tight.
Anyway, so then the sheriff's like, I'm here, blah, blah.
So they're all tripping. No, the sheriff's like, oh, well, Harvey's here. Because they saw, like, the guy at the docks, and they were like, no.
Okay, and they're like,
everyone's fine.
Okay, it's like a plot hole.
He's like, I'm going to come as soon as I can. Not with the sheriff's in on it,
as we know. Okay, go.
But if you're watching it for the first time.
You don't know the sheriff's
a lot of things don't add up because they don't show the deaths officially. But they show some body. No, it's pretty compelling.
Okay, so the cop says he's coming. So
no, then Mullet's like, oh, cop's gonna come and he's gonna shoot a flare, and he's like,
no, and then Muffy is like, freaking no, she's in the living room. She's like, they're like, we should all stay together, and then she's like, no, this is my house. I'm gonna go to my room.
And they're like, are you crazy? There's a freaking serial killer.
Alright, we're gonna freaking finish up this last part and we'll go to part 3.
And he's like, we have to wait here, Mully. And he like walks off like a total actor. He's like, I'm gonna go up into the attic.
I know, it's like, doesn't even make sense. He's like, I'm gonna go up to the attic.
But get a better view.
To get a better view of the flare.
I would love to go in an old American, huge,
an old mansion to
built in the 20s and shit. There's so many rich families. You might think that there's not a lot, but this is like a tight setup for a horror movie. They go to like this rich bitch's house on an island.
Pretty tight.
Huge, freaking old Victorian style house.
Okay, it's pretty tight. Okay, let's go. So then freaking
with the attic's huge.
Alright, we'll go to part 3 here.
Probably so many treasures in it.
April Fool's Day. In-depth horror discussion review. Part 3. Check it out.
Actually, we should just go for another minute.
Wow. JVM 2005 wants to go for another minute. Okay, you got have freaking 60 seconds. Okay, just go to part.
Oh, then Buffy talks to the one bitch and she's like, hey, if the tides are coming in, it might take all night for the sheriff to get here. And then they're like, hey, it's script convenience for them. Total movie, like they're stuck there, you know.
Alright, check out part 3.